Right now, inside your bathroom cabinet, two completely normal prescriptions are sitting side by side. Your doctor prescribed them. Your pharmacist filled them. You take them exactly as directed. But the moment they mix in your bloodstream, they become a silent neurotoxin. Today, we are breaking down the 5 everyday pill combinations that are quietly erasing your memory and the exact protocol to flush them out of your brain. 70% of older Americans take 3 or more prescription medications every single day. We are told this is just a normal part of getting older. A pill for your blood pressure, a pill for your stomach acid, a pill to help you sleep through the night. Individually, clinical trials tell us these medications are safe. But here is the terrifying reality that the pharmaceutical industry rarely talks about. Nobody is testing what happens when you take them all together. In the medical field, we call this the polypharmacy trap. You might be feeling it right now. You walk into a room and forget why you went there. You struggle to find a simple word during a conversation. You feel a thick, heavy cloud over your thoughts that never quite lifts. Your family might politely call it getting older. Your doctor might casually mention age-related cognitive decline, but they are wrong. That brain fog is not aging. It is a chemical reaction happening inside your neurons right this second. When certain safe medications cross paths, they create a compounding toxic burden that starves your brain cells of oxygen, strips away protective insulation around your nerves, and blocks the exact neurotransmitters you need to form a single memory. You are taking medication to save your life, but the combination is erasing who you are. Let us look at the very first combination, a pair of pills sitting in millions of homes right now. Let us begin with the most common combination in America. If you open a pill organizer in any home across the country, you are almost guaranteed to find these two medications sitting in the same daily compartment. One is a proton pump inhibitor, typically omeprazole, taken to calm acid reflux and heartburn. The other is metformin, the gold standard for managing type 2 diabetes and controlling blood sugar. On the surface, they do two completely different jobs for two completely different organs. But deep down in your digestive tract, they are working together to execute a catastrophic chemical robbery. Your brain relies on a very specific nutrient to maintain its physical structure and keep your memories intact. It is called vitamin B12. Without it, the protective coating around your nerve cells, known as the myelin sheath, begins to physically dissolve. When that insulation strips away, the electrical signals in your brain start to misfire, slow down, and eventually stop. To absorb vitamin B12 from your food, your stomach requires a highly acidic environment. But your daily dose of omeprazole shuts down that acid production almost entirely. At the exact same time, your daily dose of metformin actively alters the tissue in your intestines, blocking the absorption of whatever trace amounts of the vitamin manage to survive the stomach. When you take these two medications together, day after day, month after month, you completely shut down your body's ability to pull this essential vitamin into your bloodstream. The starvation happens in slow motion. Over a period of 3 to 5 years, clinical imaging shows that the brain literally begins to shrink in volume. Patients often go to their doctors complaining of a strange numbness and tingling in their hands and feet, which is quickly followed by severe memory blanks. They forget the names of their own grandchildren. They get confused driving home from the local grocery store. The tragic part is that doctors frequently misdiagnose this as the early stages of Alzheimer's disease. They look at the patient's age and assume the mind is simply fading away. But it is not Alzheimer's disease. It is a profound neurological collapse caused by severe nutrient starvation. You are simply trying to fix your heartburn and control your blood sugar. But the chemical crossfire between these two everyday prescriptions is quietly dismantling the physical structure of your memories. And this is only the first combination. The next pair of pills creates an entirely different kind of disaster while you sleep. Now let us move to the second combination, one that usually happens late at night when you are desperate for rest. You have a prescription for anxiety, perhaps a benzodiazepine like alprazolam or diazepam, given by your doctor to calm your nerves. But sometimes it is not quite enough to put you to sleep. So you reach for an over-the-counter sleep aid, something in a plastic bottle that promises 8 full hours of uninterrupted rest. You swallow both and turn off the light, thinking you are finally getting a good night of sleep. But neurologically speaking, you are not sleeping at all. You have just induced a chemical coma. Here is the exact mechanism happening inside your skull. The prescription anxiety medication forces your brain to flood with an inhibitory neurotransmitter, which acts like a heavy brake pedal on your central nervous system. Simultaneously, the over-the-counter sleep aid, which is almost always a potent antihistamine, aggressively blocks a completely different chemical called acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is the exact messenger your brain requires to encode new memories and process information. When you force these two harsh mechanisms together, you completely paralyze your brain's natural sleep architecture. During a normal sleep cycle, your brain initiates a self-cleaning sequence, physically washing away a toxic waste product called amyloid beta. This is the exact sticky protein known to accumulate and cause Alzheimer's disease. But under the heavy artificial sedation of this specific drug combination, that vital cleaning process is entirely blocked. The toxins remain trapped deep in your brain tissue. When you wake up the next morning, that heavy, confused feeling where you cannot remember the first hour of your day is not a harmless sleep hangover. It is the lingering effect of chemical suppression. You are paralyzing your neurons night after night, slowly trading your long-term cognitive health for a few hours of artificial unconsciousness. And the danger only multiplies when we look at our third combination, which involves a pill that is quietly prescribed to millions. We now reach the most dangerous combination on our list because it is almost always an accident. This is the reality check that every family needs to hear. You go to a urologist for an overactive bladder, and they prescribe a standard medication called oxybutynin. Months later, your primary care doctor prescribes an older antidepressant like amitriptyline or paroxetine to help with nerve pain or sleep issues. Two different doctors, two completely different medical conditions. But inside your brain, they are launching the exact same attack. Both of these medications belong to a class of drugs called anticholinergics. Remember that essential memory chemical we discussed earlier, acetylcholine? One of these drugs blocks it significantly. Taking two of them at the exact same time completely suffocates your brain's communication network. Clinical pharmacists call this the anticholinergic burden. Your doctors rarely cross-check for this because they are too focused on treating their specific area of expertise. The urologist looks at the bladder. The primary care doctor looks at the pain. Nobody is looking at the chemical crossfire happening inside your temporal lobe. The medical data on this specific overlap is chilling. Major studies tracking older adults over a 10-year period found that combining highly anticholinergic medications like these increases your risk of permanent, irreversible dementia by up to 300%. The damage does not take decades. Researchers have observed measurable brain shrinkage and severe memory fragmentation within just 12 months of simultaneous use. Patients taking this combination do not just experience mild brain fog. They lose their spatial awareness. They get lost in their own neighborhoods. They stare at a familiar object and completely forget what it is used for. You are structurally dismantling your memory to fix a bladder leak and nerve pain simply because the medical system is too fragmented to catch the overlap. And unfortunately, the next combination we need to discuss involves the single most prescribed class of drugs on Earth. We now arrive at our fourth combination, and this one directly challenges everything you have been told about heart health. For decades, we have been conditioned to believe that cholesterol is the ultimate enemy. So millions of older Americans take a daily statin, like atorvastatin or simvastatin, to aggressively drive their cholesterol levels down to the floor. Later, many of these same patients develop nerve pain or neuropathy and are prescribed gabapentin to quiet their screaming nerves. On paper, this looks like standard medical care, but inside your skull, this combination triggers a process of literal starvation. What your doctor likely never explained is that your brain is composed of nearly 60% fat. It desperately relies on cholesterol to build and repair the myelin sheath, the very insulation that allows your nerve signals to travel quickly and clearly. When you take a high-dose statin, you strip the brain of its core building block. You leave it structurally vulnerable. Then, you introduce gabapentin into this weakened environment. Gabapentin works by deliberately suppressing electrical activity at the synapses, forcing your neural network to slow down. You are taking a brain that is already starving for raw materials and artificially suffocating its ability to fire signals. The clinical result is a very specific type of cognitive failure. Patients on this combination frequently experience transient aphasia. This is that terrifying moment when you are in the middle of a sentence and the exact word you need completely vanishes from your mind. It is on the tip of your tongue, but the signal simply cannot bridge the gap. You assume your memory is failing, but the truth is far more mechanical. Your brain is physically exhausted. It does not have the fat it needs to repair itself, and it is chemically suppressed from transmitting the thoughts you are trying to speak. And the final combination on our list proves just how fragile that environment truly is. We have now reached the fifth combination, and this one involves a daily habit that feels completely harmless. You wake up with aching knees, and you swallow a standard painkiller like ibuprofen or Advil. What you do not think about is the blood pressure medication you took an hour earlier. Over 70% of older adults take medication to lower their blood pressure. The entire purpose of these drugs is to reduce the physical force of blood pumping through your arteries to protect your heart. But when you take an anti-inflammatory painkiller on top of them, you trigger a microscopic crisis inside your skull. Painkillers like ibuprofen work by chemically constricting your blood vessels to reduce swelling. Consider the physics of what happens next. Your blood pressure medication has already lowered the pressure, meaning blood is pumping up to your brain with far less force. Then, the painkiller physically tightens the tiny vessels inside your brain, making the pathways incredibly narrow. The result is a clinical condition known as cerebral microhypoxia. You are essentially strangling the oxygen supply to your own brain tissue. Your neurons require a massive, uninterrupted flow of oxygen to function. When you choke off that supply, the cells begin to suffocate and die in total silence. You do not feel a stroke. You do not collapse. Instead, you just feel tired. Your thoughts feel muddy. You struggle to focus on simple tasks. You think it is just a bad day or a poor night of sleep. But the reality is that your brain is suffocating simply because you tried to treat a sore joint. The damage from this low oxygen state builds up over years, leaving permanent gaps in your memory. But there is a way to stop this cycle and reverse the damage. We are going to look at exactly how to flush these chemical burdens out of your system in the final chapter. We have covered the 5 combinations that are quietly damaging your brain. But before you do anything else, you must hear this warning. Do not walk into your bathroom right now and throw your pill bottles in the trash. Stopping these medications abruptly can cause severe, immediate cardiovascular and neurological rebounds that are far more dangerous than the slow cognitive decline we just discussed. Instead, you need to initiate what clinical pharmacists call the brown bag protocol. Take every single prescription, every over-the-counter sleep aid, and every vitamin you consume, put them into a single physical bag, and place them on the desk of a clinical pharmacist. Not just your primary care doctor, but a specialist in deprescribing. They are trained to find the exact anticholinergic overlaps and chemical blockages we explored today. They can systematically taper you onto safer, modern alternatives that do not cross the blood-brain barrier. While you undergo that transition, you can begin reversing the brain fog within the next 48 hours by mechanically assisting your glymphatic system. This is your brain's natural waste clearance network. To activate it, you must sleep on your side, specifically your right side, which MRI scans show opens the glymphatic pathways up to 20% wider than sleeping on your back. Combine this positional shift with a massive increase in pure water intake during the first 4 hours of your day. You are physically flushing the accumulated amyloid proteins out of your neural tissue. The cognitive decline you or your parents are experiencing right now might not be a permanent life sentence of aging. It might simply be a chemical equation that needs to be rewritten. Your brain has an extraordinary capacity to heal itself once the toxic burden is lifted. Please send this video to someone you love who is taking multiple medications. It could save their memory, their independence, and their identity. Thank you for watching.